For the last 20 years, the world has looked at Asia and seen one giant factory, China.
China is now just as advanced, if not further ahead than centres in the West.
Is building the world's tallest buildings, longest bridges, deepest tunnels.
Chinese manufacturing really become a world leader.
Manufacturing businesses are discreetly relocating, shifting their industrial chains to Southeast Asia and other regions.
Now companies want a China plus one, a second base for their supply chains. And two names always come up, Vietnam and Taiwan. Vietnam built an export machine worth over $400 billion, and Taiwan makes chips worth $165 billion a year. So both sit on the coast, both are plugged into the oceans because that's how manufacturing has always worked. But now a new manufacturing powerhouse is coming up in India. The heart of this boom is not Mumbai or Chennai on the coast. It is not anywhere near the ocean. It is 1,400 kilometers away from any port in a state many call backward, Uttar Pradesh. A state of 240 million people, Samsung's biggest factory in the world's largest carpet industry, and after October 2025, it will potentially have one of the India's biggest cargo airports. So how did this happen? And how did a state everyone laughed at pull off the biggest comeback in modern India? Let me tell you a story. Why UP? You might be thinking, UP? Really? But the truth is, UP has a rich history of manufacturing. In Moradabad, families have worked with brass for 400 years. They make statues, lamps, and fancy home pieces. This one city alone sends product worth thousands of crore to Europe and America every single year. In Meerut, 90,000 workers make 60% of all the sports goods in India. Cricket balls, footballs, badminton, rockets. With 1,500 factories, the city exports to more than 100 countries. In Bhadohi, 22 lakh people weave luxury carpets by hand, which take months to finish. These carpets end up in mansion in Germany, the UK and the USA. Agra has 10,000 leather units making shoes, bags and belts. Varanasi creates traditional Banarsi saris that cost thousands. These are all traditional micro-industries in themselves. Skills passed down from parents to children for centuries. For years, these trades stayed local. They gave jobs but never grew big. But then the government saw this potential and an idea was born. In 2018, the UP government launched One District, One Product. Each district picked one product it was best at, and the state helped with training, quality checks, and exports. And since then, in just 6 years, UP exports have almost doubled from 88,000 crores to about 155,000 crores. That's engineers, laborers, managers, a pre-existing manufacturing ecosystem ready to be used. And their costs are 30% lower than Mumbai or Bangalore. Samsung saw this very early. Back in 1996, they set up a factory in Noida to make TVs. Later, they added phones. In 2018, Samsung opened the world's largest phone factory in Noida. They kept growing for 30 years. Now that one factory makes 120 million phones every single year. Today, Noida is one of the biggest tech manufacturing hubs in India, covering 40% of the entire phone manufacturing in India. LG has its second biggest plant here. And then Xiaomi, Vivo, Oppo, Lava all have plants in UP. And they don't just assemble, they make parts too. Batteries, display, charging cables, and slowly the tech giants have shown up as well. TCS, Infosys, HCL, Microsoft, Adobe. In fact, Samsung even has 2 research centers here building software for phones used worldwide. But how did this massive upgrade actually happen? Section 2, Roads, Airports and Smart Rules. The biggest problem UP has faced is the geography. It is surrounded by land on all the 4 sides. No sea, no major ports, only roads. The closest big port is in Mumbai, almost 1,400 kilometers away. For decades, this was the main reason UP stayed behind. It could make things, but it could not transport or move them quickly or cheaply. The government decided to fix this. Instead of trying to reach the ocean, they planned to bypass it. They built Jewar Airport, a massive cargo hub made for goods, not passenger. It is set to open in October 2025. This airport will cut time in a way ships can never. A factory in Vietnam sends products by sea and waits for weeks. A factory in Noida will load them on a plane and reach any part of the world in less than 48 hours. But there's a huge problem. Shipping is much cheaper than flying. This is why UP is focusing on light and high value products like smartphones, electronics, and traditional artisan products. The other solution is to use what you already have, the land. UP has built an extensive network of expressways that link every major industrial zone. The Yamuna Expressway, the Purvanchal Expressway, and the Ganga Expressway have cut travel time in half. On the road now takes only 4. The state also removed the paperwork mess. See, earlier businessmen had to run from offices to office for approvals, but now there's one single window system, one office, one form, and 1 week. And these changes had a clear result. UP's business ranking improved from 14th to 2nd in only 3 years. At the same time, the state worked with the central government on a program called production-linked incentives. So the idea is very simple. The more a company produces, the more support it gets from the government. And firms that joined grew almost 80% every single year. All of this has changed the game for UP. But the real question is still open. Can it compete with the global giants like Taiwan and Vietnam? To answer that, we need to go back and see where UP began. How UP changed everything. If UP always had this much potential, why didn't it grow earlier? For many years, it was part of the BIMARU states, Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, and Uttar Pradesh. People believed that these states were holding India back. Especially in UP, crime was the biggest problem. To run a business in UP, you had to pay ransom. You had to deal with gangs and face corruptions at every single step. The few companies that did come lived in fear. There were kidnappings, long strikes, constant threats. All this made foreign investors' confidence really low. Plus, in 2012, the state budget was only 2 lakh crore for 200 million people. So even the government themselves had very little money. All this began to change in March 2017 when Yogi Adityanath became chief minister. He made crime his first target. Real action was taken. Within months, the crime dropped. Businesses no longer paid protection money. The local businesses started to boom and investors started to notice. And the government also worked on the basics. In 3 years, UP business ranking went from 14th to 2nd. The budget grew from 2 lakh crore to 8 lakh crore. The economy rose from 7th largest in India to the 2nd largest. Today, UP makes 9.2% of India's GDP. That's huge. That is more than many countries. From October 2019 to September 2024, the state pulled in around 1.7 billion US dollars in foreign investment, which is about 13,000 crore, which is much higher than the 3,000 crore it got since 2000 to 2017. And the change was not just numbers. People also began to see UP in a new way. They even called it Udyog Pradesh. But the journey is not finished. UP has come far, but it has more distance to cover. Section 4, the problem UP still has. The truth is, UP is mostly an assembly hub right now. We put together parts made by others. Now, that's okay, but it's not enough to beat Taiwan or Vietnam. So, Vietnam started assembly too. But then Samsung, LG, and others slowly moved their parts factories there. So now Vietnam makes the tiny components as well, not just the final phone. And UP needs to do the same thing. Instead of just putting phones together, we need to make parts that go inside them. The government launched a huge 59,000 crore rupees plan to help companies make displays, cameras, charging ports, everything inside a gadget. But there's a problem. Making parts is much harder than assembly. It needs super clean factories, better quality control. UP has to prove it can make quality stuff, not just mass produce. And there's the workers problem. UP has millions of workers, but making semiconductors and precision electronic needs different skill set. Workers who can actually read complex manuals, who understand quality rules, and who can work with robots. But I think UP can do it. Let me tell you why. Section 5, how UP will win. UP has something Taiwan and Vietnam can never copy. People, lots of it. 240 million of them. That is more than Brazil, that is more than Nigeria, that is even more than Pakistan. And this enables UP to grow at a scale nobody can imagine. Here's how. The first step is to build full ecosystem, not just single factories. The government has cleared a 417 crore electronic hub next to Jewar airport. On 206 acres, it will attract 2,500 crores in investments and create 15,000 jobs by 2028. They're building an entire ecosystem. One park makes displays, another makes cameras, the third makes charging cables, all within 50 kilometers of each other. The second step is to use India's giant market as the testing ground. Indians buy 150 million smartphones every single year. So a company in UP doesn't need to defeat Samsung in Korea. It only needs to make screens good enough for Indian phones first. Once they work in India, global markets are easy to scale. And the third step is to get more trade deals. In July 2025, India signed a major agreement with the UK. Now 99% of products made in India can enter Britain without extra taxes. Another deal with EFTA brings 100 billions of investment over 15 years starting October 2025. Vietnam still pays duties on many exports. Taiwan faces limits. India gets a free path into billion-dollar market. The fourth step is to use defense as a base. See, UP has slowly become a defense hub. 7 companies have started work with investments worth 28,809 crore. BrahMos missiles are made in Lucknow. Adani runs a 1,500 crore ammunition plant in Kanpur. These defense plants already have clean rooms, skilled workers, and strict quality standards. The same things phone factories need. So the idea is very simple. Companies can come to UP, use the customer base of 240 million people, improve their products and systems step by step, and then ship them to the world through Asia's fastest cargo airport. And you know what? This is something Taiwan and Vietnam cannot match. Alright, so let's answer the question we started with. Can UP really beat Taiwan? Can it beat Vietnam? The honest answer is UP is playing a different game. See, Vietnam makes products and send them overseas. But UP makes products for the world's fastest growing market right next door in Delhi, in Mumbai, and in Bangalore. And that changes the story. Vietnam must convince foreign buyers to take their goods. UP only need to cross state borders. When Indians buy 150 million smartphones every single year, UP is there. When India potentially becomes the largest car market by 2030, UP is there. When the middle class market grows to 500 million, UP is right there. And that is UP's real strength. It is not just an export hub. It is a manufacturing base inside the biggest growth market in the world. So by 2030, UP will not be the next Vietnam. It will be something new. The first mega manufacturing state that sells half of what it makes at home and exports the other half to the world. And no one has tried this model at this scale before. The biggest manufacturing comeback story in modern India is only beginning. And the truth is, this is just the start.